Feinstein has given two farewell to David speeches, one when he departed as staff director for the Senate Intelligence Committee and another when he left her office as chief of staff. This speech today may be the last of its kind, or maybe not. You never know. But let me begin by quoting my former colleague, the late, great Senator Feinstein, who said, "David led with wit and wisdom and demonstrated an uncanny ability to get the job done. He has been by my side for countless meetings with foreign leaders, ambassadors, military commanders, corporate chiefs, and local officials. David has served as a mentor for many of the members of my staff, and his professionalism and dedication are second to none. He is someone I am proud to call a friend." I cannot improve on those comments, so I will not try. Instead of sharing again his long list of accomplishments, the major pieces of legislation that he has helped to pass, the critical oversight that he's delivered, or the assistance he's secured for so many grateful Californians, I want to talk about David as a person and what he has meant to the many dozens of us, probably hundreds of us, who've had the privilege of working with him. When David first joined my office as a senior policy advisor, I knew we were gaining someone with a wealth of experience. I had known him from his time on CISI and also serving with Senator Feinstein. But what I did not fully appreciate, what I could not have known, was that our team was not only gaining someone with just incredible experience, but also someone who cares so deeply about the people he works with, and someone who is just a superlative mentor, particularly towards the junior staff, many of whom are here with us today to honor him. Because his impressive CV does not mention his acerbic wit, his many practical jokes, his commitment to learning the lingo of the newest generation. Seriously, he's quite committed to that. Very awkward when he uses it, but he's quite committed to it. Or the vigorous way he ensures that the staff keep the office refrigerator clean enough for surgical instruments. So today I want to do something a little different. I want to come here and laud once again his record of legislative service, yes, but more to the point, I want to share some of the stories of those who have had the privilege of working alongside him, but who do not have the same privilege that I have to order him to sit here and listen to us say nice things about him. Because otherwise, he would not allow such a celebration. He would not allow us to share these stories of his mentorship and his presence, how he's uplifted our staff and colleagues, and how much he means to all of us. Because his work is really the stuff of legend. One of our young staff, Andrea, calls David best friend. And that's not an exaggeration. He once told her that she should heckle every staffer on our team who was late to their meeting, regardless of who they were, and yes, including the chief of staff. He's encouraged spontaneous selfies and participated in staff chats exclusively in all caps. Andrea and all of us know that he is someone who will never fail to make someone laugh during a very stressful day. To know him is to be on the watch for practical jokes, sometimes by his hand and other times played upon him. And we won't even get into the caps lock incident or the role he has played as Mr. Liquid. And I'm not going to get into those things because I have no idea what they are. When Sydney on our team noted that we would lose a true institution with David's departure, she may have been thinking about this interaction that she had with David. Sydney, then assistant to our legislative director, joined a staff delegation trip with a branch of our armed forces, and because she was one of the only Senate staffers on the trip, and perhaps because they thought Sydney was the legislative director herself, they named the trip Staff Del Duckor, Sydney's last name. And so when Sydney returned, David had printed a floor chart version of the Staff Del Duckor documents alongside a 30-inch tall headshot of Sydney. A floor chart that still on occasion is wedged in a place that Sydney will somehow run into it when she least expects it, like in a stairwell. Sydney's giant mug or the floor chart is sure to pop up at unexpected moments, courtesy of her mentor, David Granis. As Ian, a former staffer for Senator Feinstein, noted, David had an extraordinarily hard job over many years, even for a chief. But he did it so well and kept his cool, protecting his boss as well as the staff with that S-eating grin as his shield and that blank wit as his sword. Even when he was at his busiest, David has always had time for everyone from interns to LDs, as Ian put it. He acted as if he wasn't too busy for you. Not at all. A consistent theme for David is talent spotting and uplifting staff. Megan, who was a young Feinstein staffer in her San Francisco office, found out when the center had a need for a new director of scheduling. David brought her out to interview. Now, Senator Feinstein wasn't convinced that Megan was the right fit, but David was not deterred. So he flew her out again, this time to staff the senator, training her on how to do the job, and then made the case again to the senator. And wouldn't you know it, she got the job. As Megan told us, it shaped my entire career trajectory, shaped me as a leader, and showed me how to lead a ship in troubled waters. She also noted that she eventually told David a couple years later that the senator said she wanted to kick him in the pants when he recommended Megan. Alexandra, a mentee of David's, remembered that he took a chance on her and remembered the time he took her to engage interns and teach them about the Senate. Like in a scavenger hunt that ended by the interns needing to get the torture report recreated in the documents room and have David autograph it, which he most gamely was pleased to do. And when Brett was called by David to offer him a job, he did the sensible thing. He asked for a little bit of time to talk to his wife about it. And as Brett tells it, there was a long pause. Then, in a tone I would come to know very well over the next several years, David said, "Really? You seriously need to think about this?" As Brett put it, that's David in one line. You never quite know if he's teasing you, testing you, or just telling you the truth. 20 plus years in Congress, and he remains, to everyone who's worked with him, kind of an enigma. The enigma is the method. He protected the staff so they could just do the work. That wasn't an accident. That was David protecting people who didn't even know they were being protected. Even in our office, David had an eye for talent, never failing to mention when an intern or a junior staffer did a first draft or came up with an idea that was brought to him and then brought to me. He could do it with the smallest of projects, but he knew how to handle the biggest tasks, especially on the Intelligence Committee. As Mike Buchwald told us, David was known for approaching politically charged issues with integrity and a commitment to ensuring the committee fulfilled its constitutional oversight responsibilities. That is the highest charge of the Intelligence Committees, and as we saw with David's handling of the Senate CIA torture report, its creation and its release, it was because of David, Senator Feinstein, and the many talented members of the SISI staff that this report ever saw the light of day, culminating in a floor speech by Senator Feinstein for the ages. David and Mike worked on draft after draft of the speech, announcing the painstaking process to chronicle each of the CIA's abuses of power, but they were never sure the speech would actually see the light of day. But finally, one morning at 9 a.m., David dropped by Mike's desk, saying simply, "Let's go to the floor. She's giving the speech." She gave that speech right here, speaking truth to power, calling out abuses of power. Dan, a SISI staffer at the time, noted David's immense work with a bipartisan group of senators to ban the CIA's enhanced interrogation techniques, which included torture tactics such as waterboarding. As Dan put it, David served our country in enormously consequential ways, almost entirely out of the public view, and because of the quiet, persistent work he did, the known history of the United States is different and more honest than it would otherwise be. Now, I want to make one thing very clear. I don't want any of this praise to make you believe he is perfect. He is not. David, for example, would prefer that today I quote from the wisdom of Fangorn or Lothlorien, which I will not do because, for one, I have no idea who they are. And what's more, I suspect it is some obscure reference to Lord of the Rings. He once gave a presentation to our staff at a brown bag lunch in which he said that of the top 100 films ever made, Lord of the Rings, 3 of the Lord of the Rings movies, 3 of them, mind you, were in the top 10. So you can see he is prone to occasional but glaring lapses in judgment. I'm sorry, David, you're just wrong about that. And I know that I'm pissing off Stephen Colbert and a lot of other people by saying that, but really, 3 of the greatest movies of all time, Lord of the Rings movies? I mean, does that even require discussion? Another member of our amazing staff, Cersei, noted dryly that behind the wit, David genuinely cares about the people he works with, even if he isn't always going to admit it. She cited specifically how he brought his wonderful humor to the bowels of the basement where our office was once located, actually twice located, which David took to calling the lower chamber. Peter, a colleague from the Senate Intelligence Committee, remembered 2 benches. Senator Feinstein would occupy the hot bench, peppering you with questions. David, in contrast, was a cold bench, where he would just stare at you uncomfortably with a resting ice face, kind of like I'm getting right now, and allow for your own internal dialogue to wreck you. Both techniques were very effective. When Peter, a former prosecutor, was told to run a hotline, he had no idea what to do, something I can relate to after joining the Senate after so many years in the House. So Peter asked David how to hotline something, and according to Peter, he just stared at me for a long time. He then took a long, deep breath and then continued to stare. Classic David Granis. Drianna noted that David is the reason so many of us got our start on Capitol Hill through his steady advocacy. Ricky noted a simple code to live by that David would repeat: don't do anything stupid. That is outstanding advice for senators and staff alike. Tanya said he was never afraid to poke fun and turning almost anything into a punchline. He truly cared for and mentored so many young staffers. Flavio said that despite his seniority, and more likely because of it, through humor and pranks, David made our office laugh while teaching us the importance of timeliness and delivering praise, and always advocating for interns and junior staff, even if they didn't always understand his pre-2001 movie references. Megan said she shared important life lessons. Megan said that he shared important life lessons, Granis style. Don't attend a meeting and change the agenda. And if you think you have it bad, someone always has it worse. When Jahari first moved from our Fresno office to DC, she was nervous, but in her telling, David was the first person she chatted with and immediately felt at ease. When other staff ask who has become her mentor, as she put it, David is an easy answer. This character of David is not new. During Senator Feinstein's first farewell speech about him, she noted the same. I want to echo many of the comments that our committee staff has made about David. He has been the rock upon which the staff's foundation is built. Now, speaking of the rock, I fear this speech would be incomplete without talking about the big hunk of beef incident, which I'm told is a favorite story of David's. David and Senator Feinstein's legislative director, Rachel, were staffing the senator during a late-night Votorama, something we've had a lot of experience at lately. It's around 2 a.m., and the senator is flipping channels between CNN and the floor and random channels when she finally lands on a movie starring none other than The Rock. After a while, she just matter-of-factly states, "That's a big hunk of meat," causing David at a safe distance to laugh uncontrollably. When I put out the call for recollections of David and his memories, and their memories of his time on the Hill, the response, as you've heard, just a small sample, was overwhelming. But now I want to share my own. For David has not only been a mentor to the staff, he has helped mentor me as well. We began working together almost 2 years ago when I was elected to the Senate. And in that time, I have been such an enormous beneficiary of his experience and his wisdom, his sense of humor, his poise under pressure, his intellect, and his friendship. I am so lucky to have had you on my team. So lucky. On the most extensive range of issues, from foreign policy to national security to intelligence reform to Senate procedure and so much more, he has been the most extraordinary source of knowledge and expertise. I've come to rely upon him implicitly and without hesitation. The respect he is held in by senators and staff is unrivaled on the Hill, truly. He has dedicated himself to the public service for decades now, and the Senate and the country are immeasurably better for it. He is the quintessential public servant. Thank you, David. Thank you. And finally, I want to end my comments by thanking David's wife, Carrie, and their wonderful children, Sarah, Amelia, and Nathaniel. Senate staff make a lot of sacrifices to serve the public, financial and otherwise, late nights, weekends, missed trips, and their families are the ones who support them the most. So thank you, David. I can't wait to see what you do next, and the legions of staff that you helped and influenced and mentored and supported can't wait either. We all thank you. And I yield back.
I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to executive session to consider the following nominations in block. Calendar number 877, and all nominations on the Secretary's desk in the Marine Corps, and that the nominations be confirmed in block, the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, that no further motions be in order of the nomination, that the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate resume legislative session, be in a period of morning business with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
And I ask unanimous consent that notwithstanding Rule 22 at 11:30 a.m. on Friday, the Senate resume legislative session and proceed to the consideration of H.R. 5334. Further, that the only amendments in order be the following to be offered by the sponsor or their designee, and with 2 minutes of debate equally divided prior to each vote and up to 5 minutes under the control of Senator Graham prior to the vote on passage. Graham Blumenthal, number 6711, Graham, number 6712, and Paul, number 6715. Further, that upon the use or yielding back of that time, the Senate vote in relation to the Paul Amendment, if offered, and upon disposition of the Paul Amendment, the Graham Blumenthal Amendment as amended, if amended, be agreed to. The bill as amended be read a third time, and the Senate vote on passage of the bill as amended with 60 affirmative votes required for passage. Finally, if passed, the Graham Amendment to the title 6712 be agreed to, the title as amended be agreed to, and the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate. Further, following disposition of H.R. 5334, the Senate resume executive session and vote on confirmation of the nominations in block. Finally, the cloture motion with respect to amendment number 6732 to H.R. 6500 ripen following disposition of the nominations in block.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate now proceed in block consideration of the following resolutions which are at the desk. HRES 836, HRES 837, HRES 838, HRES 839, I'm sorry, these are all SRESs. SRES 836, SRES 837, SRES 838, SRES 839, SRES 840.
Is there objection to proceeding with the measures en bloc? Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measures en bloc.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the resolutions be agreed to, the preambles be agreed to, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table all in block.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Friday, August the 7th, that following the prayer and pledge, the journal of proceedings be approved today at the morning hour be deemed expired, the time for the two leaders be reserved for the use later in the day, morning business be closed, and notwithstanding Rule 22, the Senate proceed to executive session to resume consideration of the nominations in block pursuant to S. Res. 817 post-cloture. Further, notwithstanding Rule 22 at 11:30 a.m., the Senate proceed to legislative session and execute the order in relation to H.R. 5334. Finally, if any nominations are confirmed during Friday's session of the Senate, the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table, and the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, if there's no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it stand adjourned in the previous order.
The Senate stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now World.